Hello everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and today we are going to learn how to create character artwork for our original video games. So you should have access to the Adobe Creative Cloud. It should be pinned on your taskbar down here. Whenever you click on that, make sure you're signed into your account, right? So if you're not signed into your account, you want to sign out and then sign into your account. You will have access to the Adobe Creative Cloud suite just because you've taken this class, right? So if you don't have access, let me know. Make sure you're not logging into someone else's account. So the application that we're going to use, there's actually quite a few that we could use specifically for creating character artwork. The application we're going to use today is actually Photoshop. Illustrator is a great choice as well, but we're going to be creating a pixel art game, and so all of our artwork needs to be pixelated. Illustrator is better for smooth artwork. And it's a bit tougher to learn how to draw in Illustrator. So we're going to use Photoshop. I'm going to go ahead and click open and wait for that to open up. And while I'm waiting, I'll have some coffee. Oh, and it looks like it's opening on my other screen. Give me a minute and then I'll bring it over once it's done opening up all the way. Oh, there we go. And it's open here. Perfect. So when you log into Photoshop for the first time, it's going to ask you, you're going to see a screen that looks like this. You're going to see previous projects down here on the bottom. Those projects, you probably won't have any if you haven't created anything in Photoshop yet. I'm going to go ahead and click New File because we want to create a new file for this project. Now we need to think about what our art is going to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a sprite sheet. Let me show you an example of what we're making so that you have a good idea of what we're doing here. So this is my main player. I'm going to zoom in here. Okay. It doesn't look super great, right? It doesn't look amazing. The artwork is kind of blurry. That's because this artwork is really small. This whole entire image is 64 pixels wide, 64 pixels tall. The reason for that is because each of these individual frames is 32 by 32 pixels. Okay, that will give us enough. 32 by 32 will give us enough pixels to create pretty complicated looking art that'll look really nice in our game. Again, it looks kind of trash here, but it's going to look a lot better once we bring it into Godot. The top two frames here are my idle animation. So he kind of bobs up and down. If you look, there's a slight height difference on the body. And I have these lights that are blinking, right? So whenever my character is doing nothing in the game, he's just going to kind of bob up and down, and the lights are going to blink, okay? These two animations, or these two frames, make up what make up the run animation for this character. The wheels are back a little bit, the body's pushed forward, and we're still blinking, right? So this is going to be run, this is going to be idle. That's all we need to create for this character. Okay, so your character needs to have 2 frames for an idle animation and 2 frames for a run animation. Now, if you want to make more than that, that's okay. That's up to you. I recommend just sticking with this formula here. That way you can follow along and you won't get too confused. So in order to create this artwork, oh, and by the way, the character has to be facing to the right. If you create a character where it's looking straight forward, 2 eyes and a nose and a mouth, that's not going to work for this game unless you want your character to be like moving side to side while facing the camera, right? We want this character to be facing to the right. Okay, so in order to make this happen, we need to set up our document in the right way. First of all, we need to make sure that we are measuring by pixels, not by inches. Okay, so pixels, because we are creating pixel art. And we want to make sure that our document is 64 pixels wide by 64 pixels tall. The reason for that is because we're going to have 2 frames on the top, 2 frames on the bottom, 32, 32, 32, 32. That makes 64 by 64, right? The resolution You can keep it at 300 or make it 299.99999, whatever you want. It's really not going to matter that much because we're not going to be using this on a bigger scale. Your background contents, I would recommend making your background content a really gross looking, like bright green color. You'll see why in just a bit. 8-bit color is totally fine for this project. Okay, let's go ahead and click create. All right, so now we have this green square in the middle of our design. Let me go ahead and get rid of this. Hide the bar. Okay, so a couple of just tips on how to navigate around Photoshop. If you hold Control and scroll your mouse wheel, you'll go back and forth. Okay. If you hold Alt and scroll your mouse wheel, you will zoom in and out. Okay, and zoom in and out. I'm going to zoom in to the point where I can see the entire design. All right. So now we have over here on the layers menu, we have a layer called background. It is locked. That is basically just the background of our layer. Okay. All right, so we need to set up some grids so we can see our individual boxes. Remember, we're going to have 4 boxes here. What we need to do is we need to go to Edit and Preferences and go to Grids or Guides, Grid, and Slices. Okay, that's going to bring up this menu. What we're focused on is the grid down here. You want to set up your grid just like I have. I want one grid line every 1 pixels. Okay, and I want my subdivisions to be 1. That's basically going to show me the individual pixels on my grid. Now, you may not even see the grid yet, so set this up first. Then, to see the grid, you need to go to View, Show, and then make sure Grid is turned on, and make sure Extras is turned on as well. So then you should be able to see the grid the way that I'm looking at it. Okay, now to give us a hand with making sure we're not drawing into the next frame, what you can do is over here on the side, there's this ruler on the side and on the top. And again, if you don't see this ruler, you can turn it on by going to View and Rulers. Now what we can do is we can just click inside this ruler and drag out a guide. And you're going to drag it out to 32 pixels on the X. You can see because there's a little tooltip that pops up and shows you. Once you drop that, it'll drop a nice bright blue line right in the middle. And we're going to do the same thing for the top. Drag it all the way down to 32. Okay, so that is our sprite sheet the way it's sectioned out. Now the reason why I said you wanted a bright green background is because we're going to start drawing on this and we want to see which parts are going to be see-through. You might be thinking, well, what if we just make it so that we see the see-through stuff in the bottom? Let me show you what that looks like. So if I were to let me unlock the layer. If I were to turn that off, look how confusing that is, because there's this checkerboard pattern for the see-through parts of my design, but I also have my grid and they don't match up perfectly, and that's just gross. We could fix that, but I'm not going to worry about it. Right now I'm just going to turn on that green background so that it's easy to see what parts are not going to be a part of my image. All right, I'm going to Alt and scroll so I can focus on this one frame right here. Now, in order to draw pixel art, we want to make sure we're using the right tool. Over here on the toolbar, we have quite a few tools available to us. The tool that we want is the pencil. Now, by default, you're going to see the brush tool. Okay? In order to get the pencil tool, you want to click and hold and then select pencil tool and unclick. Okay? That's going to give us our pencil tool. We want to make sure that we only have 1 pixels, so it's the size of 1 pixels. We want to make sure the opacity is 100%. Smoothing, we can turn down to 0. Okay, so now we have a pencil that will draw 1 pixel at a time. Okay, down here we can check our color. We can change our color. Let me just go ahead and change my color to black real quick, and let's just start drawing in here. Now notice it's only drawing in the specific pixels wherever I color my art. Now I'm just going to make some very quick art here. I'm not going to try to make it look pretty. I'm just going to make something really, really fast. So I have my outline, and let me just create like an area for an eyeball. Sure. And then I'll give them, there we go. Now I have this area. I want to fill that in white. Let's go ahead and fill that in white. What we can do is we can use what's called the Paint Bucket tool. The Paint Bucket tool will allow you to fill in an area with color just by clicking in that area, as long as it's contained. So the Paint Bucket tool is, where is it? Right there. Under the Gradient tool, you're going to long click on that, select Paint Bucket, and unclick. Then with the Paint Bucket tool, we can choose the color we want and click in there. And look, some pixels, it kind of just like fell out of that area because it wasn't contained perfectly. That's okay. We can fix that in a minute. Let's say this is going to be a red eyeball or a red ball here. So I can make sure my Paint Bucket tool is selected. I'll grab red, and then I'll do that. And we still have some other bleed over. That's okay. We can fix this. Let me grab my pencil tool. And with the pencil tool, I'm just going to paint over that because it's supposed to be red. Now, these are supposed to be outside of the character. They're not supposed to be colored in at all. So we're going to use our eraser. So over here in eraser, I'm going to select that. Now I want to make sure that my tool is set up properly. I want to make sure that it is only 1 pixel. Its mode is pencil. Okay. And smoothing 0%, opacity 100%. Then what I can do is just come in here and click, and it's going to erase those parts of that design. Now notice that I'm erasing everything behind. I'm even erasing the green part. That's because I'm on the same layer. Okay. We can fix that if we want, but we're just gonna move on. That's because I unlocked my layer. For you, whenever you start drawing, it's gonna create its own layer. So that was my fault. It's all good though. Actually, what I'm gonna do, go ahead and select all of this, copy, and I'm going to paste that in. That's going to give me a new layer. Let me turn off that layer underneath, and I'm just going to quickly erase all of the green here so that mine will look like yours. All right. What we should have is our character on one layer above the background with all of the stuff, the see-through stuff behind it. Okay. Getting there. It's okay if I mess up. Again, I'm not keeping this art. I already have my art for the game. But I do want to show you a couple of other things before we move on. All right. So Photoshop can be really easy to use as long as you take the time to get comfortable with it. And the art that we're creating is very simple, so we don't need to worry too much about like shading and blending and compositing and all the other things that we're going to do. Our artwork is going to be very simplistic. But the more you get into Photoshop, the more artwork you create in Photoshop, the more advanced you can get, and you can make some really cool looking things. One of the things that you're going to notice with Photoshop is that it actually has the ability to create AI generated artwork. That artwork is, let me just paint in these. One trick with your color selector open, if you want to select a color that already exists, you can just click on that pixel with that color, and then it'll automatically select. But Photoshop will now allow you to create AI generated artwork, which is pretty crazy in my opinion. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend playing around too much with that. I want everything created in this class to be made by you. Okay, so now we have our weird looking meat eyeball thing. Now I want to create another frame for its idle animation. So what I can do is I can use my marquee select tool here, my rectangular marquee tool, and I can just draw around those pixels. Now, because it's 32 by 32, it's easy to get the exact amount of pixels I want. I can Control C to copy, and then Control V to paste. Now notice it pasted another one, and there's a second layer here. Now all I have to do is grab my Move tool here and move it over. Now I want to make sure that it's exactly the same amount of pixels away from the edge as the other one. So I'm 1, 2, 3 pixels away, 1, 2, 3 pixels away, and I want to make sure it's the same exact height. Okay. The reason for that is because we want these to be exactly the same whenever we use the animation. Now for this, actually, I'm going to dip him down 2 so that he kind of has this like bobbing animation whenever he's idle, right? So that's what I'm going to do for that guy. And we can do the same thing. Control V. We'll move him down, make sure he's lined up perfectly. He's 3 from the top, 3 from the top. And for this, I'm going to, I don't know. Again, this isn't artwork that I'm going to use. I'm just doing it quickly. Instead of him being red when he's idle, he's going to be red. I'm going to make him blue when he's running. I know it's dumb. I wouldn't use that. I wouldn't do that in the game. But I'm just showing you that I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to have it be different whenever he's running. And I want the run animation to kind of be the idle animation as well. So I'm going to grab this one, Control C. Oh, here's the other thing with Photoshop. You have to make sure you're paying attention to your layers. Let me move my face out of the way. There we go. You have to make sure you're paying attention to your layers over here. Notice that I have layer 0. Yours would be background. I have layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. These layers are really important. Whenever I have layer 3 selected, I'm only making art on layer 3. So if I were to take this, let me grab my pencil tool again, and I were to start, nope, pencil tool, thank you. And I were to just start drawing in here, that's only going to be on layer 3, right? So if I hide layer 3, it gets rid of that, and that extra artwork that I created is gone. I'm going to Control Z that. And that again, and that again, and that again. Okay. So if I try to draw something or erase something or do something different, I have to make sure I have the layer selected for which I want it, for the layer that I want. And for this, I want layer 2. I'm going to grab my Marquee Select tool, grab that. Oh, my lights just went out. I forgot I have automatic lights in the classroom. Hello, I exist. I'm here. Let me go turn my lights on real quick. Oh. They saw me standing up. All right, so I have my layer 2 meatball guy selected. Now I can copy and paste. Okay, and so now let's put that in the right spot. He is 5 down from the top. Okay, and then I'm going to paint bucket fill him with that blue as well. All right, so now I have my character with all of the animations, the frames for the animation. I'm going to turn off that background layer so that I don't have a green background behind my characters the whole time. And then all I have to do to save this work is File, Export, Quick Export as MPG. But before that, I actually want to save this file so I can modify it later. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to Save. It's going to ask me where I want to save it. So I can save it to my desktop. I can save it, to my computer, or I can save it to my cloud documents. You guys all have access to Photoshop Cloud, so I would recommend saying Save to my cloud documents, and it's going to pull up all of the documents that you've saved to your cloud. And I'm going to call this Meatball Character. Okay, and click Save. So now I've saved it to my cloud. Now I can go to Export, Quick Export as PNG, and it's just going to create a new character, or it's going to create that new art, that sprite sheet right there. Let me open up my meatball character. There we go. So now I have a meatball character that I can import into Godot. But I'm going to use my actual robot character because I like him more. All right, spend some time creating your artwork. Make sure you have at least 2 animations. Again, you want idle and you want run. Those are the 2 animations that you want. Make sure that everything looks the way you want it to, and then export your artwork and then submit it on Canvas for credit. Awesome. Thank you guys very much, and I'll see you next time.